Hello everybody, and welcome back to online video lecture. Today we're going to be discussing what is summary writing, and it's quite different from essay writing, in which you tend to have either a standard 5-paragraph essay or even more paragraphs to your essay. Summary is much shorter. So let's start. So let's begin with what is summary writing. Summary writing is its own genre, and that means that you need to follow the instruction sheet that your professor will provide you regarding any summary assignment that you may have for a course. But generally speaking, summary writing is the process of you, the student, extracting the main ideas from another text. Then you present these main ideas in your own words without your opinion or biases related to the topic. You want to use limited paraphrasing and quotes because a summary is supposed to be a very condensed form of the original text. A lot of students will ask, why should we even use summary? This is a very good question. And there are multiple reasons for the purpose of summary. Overall, a professor will assign summary assignments because they want students to demonstrate that they understand the text that has been assigned to them. Professors will also assign summary writing because they want the students to be able to demonstrate that they can restate the topic or the text without the student's own perspective and without the student's own biases. Summary writing is also used so that you can share your knowledge about a particular text with other people. You would much rather read maybe a single paragraph or two instead of a 20-page essay. Summary writing also helps students to master concise writing, which is an imperative skill that is needed for academia. So let's discuss some tips that will help you to be successful in summary writing. The first thing that will help you to be successful is that while you're reading the text that you have been assigned, be sure to annotate those texts for the specific components of whatever genre you are reading. For example, if you're reading an argumentative text, annotate that text for the parts of argument. If you are reading a comparison and contrast essay, be sure to identify how those elements are being compared and contrasted together. If you're reading a classification essay, be sure to annotate whatever items or objects or thoughts are being classified and how they're being classified and the reasons for those classifications. There are many modalities and different genres of writing, and each genre has its own expectations. So as you're reading any text, be aware of the genre conventions and the expectations for that genre. This will help you to annotate the text more effectively. Another tip for summary writing is that you do an informal summary, like a rough draft almost. As you're reading through the text, find paragraphs that discuss similar elements or similar ideas. Circle those paragraphs together and then determine whatever is the main idea for those paragraphs. This will help you to condense your writing. Finally, after you've written your informal summary, then you want to revise that informal summary to a more condensed version. The condensed version will have less details and it will focus more on the main ideas. To keep your summary writing condensed and shortened, it is wise to use something that is called quote nuggets. Now, a quote can be a few words, which is what a quote nugget is. A quote can be a sentence. A quote can be a paragraph. A quote can be multiple paragraphs. In summary writing, it's important to demonstrate that you can be concise with your words. So It's very important that you choose what type of quote you're going to use for your summary writing. If you have a 20-page essay, it would be appropriate for you to insert a sentence or a couple of sentences into your summary. But if you're only reading a 2-page essay, a sentence would take up a lot of space. So I would advise you to use quote nuggets instead. You also want to make sure that you keep your summary length to 20% or less of the original text. So, for example, if you read a 20-page essay, you want to have 2 pages, right? So just be aware of that fact. I definitely would not go past 40% in a summary length in comparison to the original text, because if you're going up to 40%, then you're probably listing details that are not needed. You're probably straying away from the main ideas that are needed for a summary. Let's review what summary writing is. Summary writing is the act of you extracting the main ideas from a text. In the process of you extracting those main ideas, you're being very wise with your word choice. You will keep your summary length somewhere between 20 and 40% of the original text. I would prefer somewhere around the 20% mark, but your instructor may prefer that you go up to the 40% mark. So be sure to ask your instructor what they want. I would like to show you an example of summary writing that was provided by one of my students, Sarah Klinke. She has read an essay from the Superheroes and Philosophy book. This book is edited by Tom Morris and Matt Morris. And the essay that she chose was, Should Batman Kill the Joker? This essay is quite a few pages long, but if you look at her corresponding length of her summary, it is a paragraph, because she's trying to make sure that she stays underneath that 20%. Now remember, I told you that summary has its own genre, and to ask your instructor what they want for their particular assignment. For my students, I want them to have the author, the title that they're summarizing, and the thesis of that particular essay within the first sentence. So let's look. In Mark D. White and Robert Arp's Should Batman Kill the Joker, they correlate sensitive real-life issues to Batman and the Joker. So Sarah Klinke has expertly identified the authors, the title, and their thesis. Let's continue. White and Arp compare 3 different philosophies with Batman's inability to kill the Joker. So her second sentence lets the reader know that White and Arp use philosophy to discuss Batman and Joker. Let's continue with her essay. They start with utilitarianism, comparing how many people would be saved versus just the Joker dying. Next, White and Arp compare it to Kant's deontology, arguing that Batman murdering the Joker may not be morally sound, and Kant saying that should the Joker face justice, it should be through the appropriate channels. Last, they equate it to virtue, ethics, discussing what kind of man Batman would be if he did kill the Joker, and what would stop him from killing anyone else. So here, Sarah Klinke identified the authors, the text, the thesis. Then she identified that they use philosophies to talk about Batman and Joker. Her next 3 sentences identify which philosophies are being discussed. Please notice that she doesn't define those philosophies. She only identifies those philosophies by name. She expects that if somebody is reading her summary and they don't know what these terms mean, then they can go look up the terms. Let's continue with Sarah's essay. White and Arp correlate this instance to a real-life issue of torture. White and Arp explained that while comparing such an issue to Batman and Joker may seem ineffectual, it is actually useful by showcasing philosophies in that everyone can relate to. So Sarah did a really well done summary. Let's think about what she has done. She's remained 20% or less of the original text. She's identified the authors, the title, and the thesis. She's extracted the main ideas, which were 3 philosophies, and she extracted the main idea of why these authors wanted to discuss this. And they were discussing it because they wanted to demonstrate that popular culture is definitely discussing the topic of torture, and that this topic may seem ineffectual in the comic book characters, but in application to real life, it is actually a good topic for these authors. So that was Sarah Klinke's example. Let's look at another. So this is Samuel Perkins' summary about a text also from the Superheroes textbook. And this essay was Heroes and Superheroes. Let's take a look at Samuel's summary. Jeff Loeb and Tom Morris, in the essay Heroes and Superheroes, examine what it means to be a hero and a superhero and how it can give us a new sense of direction and resolve as we live our own lives. Now notice, Mr. Perkins does identify the authors, the title of the text, the thesis, and he also uses a quote nugget, all within the first sentence. Let's continue with Mr. Perkins' summary. The opening paragraph seeks to define what a superhero is. It points out that superheroes are separated by their physical appearance, their names, and of course the fact that they have powers or abilities far beyond that of a normal human. Now here you will notice an in-text citation because he is paraphrasing Loeb and Morris, and he is giving credit to the people that he is paraphrasing. They defend justice and fight for good. Some argue that to be a heroic, a substantial risk must be taken, basically saying that a superhero takes no risk stopping an armed robber if their skin is bulletproof, thus making their actions not heroic. Authors Loeb and Morris address this counter-argument by saying it's just based on a simple misunderstanding of the heroic. Now, Mr. Perkins did something that is well done here. Instead of using a full sentence as a quote to demonstrate that he understands this text, he uses a quote nugget, and it's that last few words of the paragraph. It's just based on a simple misunderstanding of the heroic. This is a job well done. Now here he enters something from the Oxford Dictionary, which he should not do unless it's mentioned in the essay. So when you're writing a summary, do not pull in extra sources, do not offer your own opinion, do not offer your own biases, only offer the main ideas from the original text. Loeb and Morris say the concept of a hero is a moral category and state their definition of a superhero as an extraordinary, powerful person with weakness as well as strengths, whose noble character guides him or her into worthy achievements. Now here I'm a little bit concerned because he has used quite a bit of quote in relation to the amount of his own words. And you don't want to break the MLA rule of 80-20. This rule states that in any writing that you do for academia, you need to have no more than 20% quote usage in your own text. Now, I always allow my students to use plagiarism checker, which will show them exactly how much quote usage they're using in their writing. Please check with your instructor to determine if they also do this for you. Let's go back to Sam's summary. The heroes of the real world are discussed. They are defined as people who rise above their own self-interest and put the needs of others first. In doing so, their noble deeds benefit us all. Loeb and Morris then say the everyday heroes are often overlooked, stating they are taken for granted and they are only recognized when they have dramatically gone above and beyond the call of duty. The authors show how, like everyday heroes, superhero goods can be overlooked. And you can see that he has quite a few more paragraphs, and then he concludes his summary. The essay concludes by appealing to the reader to follow the examples of superheroes. The authors quote philosopher Seneca, "Keep in your mind a great character, then live as if he were watching you. Order all of your actions as if he saw them." Now, generally, I tell students not to begin or end a paragraph with a quote, but it is common practice for people to end an essay with a quote, and sometimes with summary writing, you might end with a quote as well. It is best to use your own judgment and to also ask your professor for their particular likes and dislikes when it comes to academic writing. So I've provided you with 2 examples of summary writing. Let's review what summary writing is. Summary writing is the act of you, the student, extracting the main ideas from a text. You withhold your own biases, your own prejudices, your own perspectives. You present those main ideas from the text in your own words, and you want to limit your paraphrasing and your quotes. Please remember that MLA requires you to not break the 80-20 rule, which means you can have no more than 20% quote usage in any academic writing that you do. Thank you for joining this online lecture. I hope it's been beneficial. If you have any questions, please let me know in the YouTube comments. And if you're one of my students, you can feel free to ask me any questions in class. Thank you for joining me today. I'll see you next time.